So thank you all once again. We will be starting off with our session. As usual, we have already shared the data sets with all of you, and the handout of yesterday's session that has also been shared with all of you in the email. We had already mentioned that we are in the process of editing the session recordings. We shall be uploading that, and the links shall be shared with all of you so that you would be able to refer back at any point of time. With regards to today's session, since today being the final day, there will be a slight change with respect to our timings. We will be winding up with the formal training session by 4:15, 4:20 till 4:30. We will have a formal valedictory session where we will be having the principal of the college and the other dignitaries joining us and would be addressing the participants on the Zoom meeting this afternoon. So today we will be concluding a little early. We will be winding up with a training session by uh, by 4:15, and we will have a formal valedictory from 4:20 to 4:30 on the Zoom platform. Also, just in case if you have any queries, we have Professor Bijan Philip, who's the co-host on this meeting. You can, after the training or after learning a particular tool, you can raise your hands, and sir will be happy to get in touch with you to clarify and to confirm your doubts or queries. So with that note, let us start this afternoon session. We'll do a quick recap of what we had done yesterday. In yesterday's session, we had learned quite a few formulas. We had learned the formula count. Count is what we will use for counting numericals. Count A is what we will use to count cells which have both numerical as well as alphabetical entries. We will use count blank to confirm if there are any blank cells in our series. Count if is what we will use when we want to specify a specific criteria, and we want Excel to count those cells for us. Count ifs, I had mentioned yesterday. Count if formula, it supports only one criteria at a time. Just in case if you want to specify more than one criteria, in those circumstances we will be using count ifs. Then we had spoken about if formula. If formula is what we will use when we give a logical conditioning, when we give a logical condition to Excel, and Excel will come back with true or false. So if it's true, what should Excel do? If it's false, what should Excel do? Around this, we had also worked about nested ifs. Then we had learned the functionality in Excel, which is called as text to columns. Text to columns, we had worked out, we saw that text to columns is what we will use when you want to convert values in one column into multiple columns. When you want to split the data which is given in one column into different columns. In this line, we had spoken about two scenarios where our data is separated by common operators or common characters. In such cases, we will be using the functionality which is called as delimited. If your data is of uniform length and you would like to divide that, in such cases, you would be using the functionality which is called as fixed width. Then we had learned the formula lower, upper, proper, trim. These are what we will use with respect to text entries. Lower, whenever we want to convert anything into lower casing, we will use the formula lower. Upper is what we will use when we want to convert into uppercase. Then we will use proper when we want to use proper casing. Trim is what we will use when we want to cut or when you want to reduce the number of characters in a cell. Then we had concluded by learning concatenate. Concatenate is a functionality or is a formula that you will use when you want to merge or when you want to combine cells which are mentioned in different cells onto one single cell. So these were what we had studied as a part of yesterday's session. The data sets have already been shared with all of you. We have also shared the handouts with you. So just in case if you have any doubts or any queries, you could refer to these two resources, and then we will be able to continue. So today's data sets, again, we've shared, and we will start off with topics for today. Today we are going to learn a functionality which is called as Autofilter. Okay, today we are going to learn a functionality which is called as Autofilter. So I want all of you to quickly turn over to your data sets and let me start my screen share for you. Okay, and all of you please scroll over to the first sheet in today's data set. Okay, all of you please scroll over to the first data sheet in the first sheet in today's data set. Now here we have what I have basically provided you is the first name, last name, employee ID, designation, department, and locations of some employees of an organization. Okay, so I have shared with you the data or the statistics of some employees who are working in an organization. I've given you their first name, last name, employee ID, designation, department, and location. Now here, if you notice, the data is in a random manner. The data may not make much sense to us. So how do we go about converting this data into into formats or into tables that we would prefer, or we have a certain need and we want this data to be arranged in that manner, or we want to identify the details of some employees with respect to a specific criteria that we have in mind. So in those lines, um, uh, we will be learning a functionality which is called as filter. Now how do we activate filter? You have to ensure that your data is structured properly, and your data should have proper names, or they should data entries in your table should be well defined. It should have a proper name. Excuse me for that. Our data should have proper names. Your data should have proper headers. Now what you should be doing now is you have to select your data header, click on the tab that says data. Okay, so select the data header, click on the tab that says data, and then here you would see an option which says filter. Okay, you would see an option that says filter. So once you click on it, you would notice that there are some drop down buttons that have appeared over here, and we can go about using these buttons to customize the data according to our requirement. So let's say I want to identify all the managers who are work from this list. Okay, I'm interested in all the managers in my list. So all that I have to do is just come here, click on this drop down, and then unselect everything, select manager, and then say OK. So now the table is displaying only the list of managers who are working in this organization. Okay, and now it is listing only the managers who are working in this organization. So I'll show that to you once again. What you will have to do is you have to select the entire, you have to select the headers for your data set. Okay, go to menu. I look for the tab that says data. Okay, look for the tab that says data. Then you will see an option here that says filter. Click on filter. You would notice that there are some radio buttons which have appeared on your screen. Okay, there are some radio buttons which have appeared on your screen. Now you can click on these radio buttons to go about filtering out information based on your requirement. Now let's say I want to identify all the people who are working in Bangalore. I want to identify all the people who are working in Bangalore. Click on this radio button. Now it's giving me the list of all the locations where we have employees. So I'm going to unselect all this, click on Bangalore, and then say OK. So this is the list of all the employees who are working in Bangalore. Okay, this is the list of all the employees who are working in Bangalore. Now, some of you may be already familiar with this functionality. Um, uh, so along with this, we'll be learning one more functionality, which is called as an advanced filter. I will be coming to that in a short while. But before I do that, I also want to let you know that we have an option of applying multiple filters. Okay? We have an option of applying multiple filters. So for example, I want to see all the employees who are working in operations and who are based out of Bangalore. Okay? So first I have applied a filter to the column that says department. Then I have to come to location, and here I have to select Bangalore. So these are the list of employees who are working in support, and then who are working in Bangalore. Okay, these are the employees who are working for the support department, and their location is Bangalore. So like this, you could apply multiple filters and then you will be able to filter out your data. Okay, so but some of us may be already familiar with this functionality. Some of us may be already using this functionality, but along with this filter functionality, we will be learning one more tool, which is called as an advanced filter. Which is called as an advanced filter. Now here, when we apply the functionality of filter, what happens is filter goes about categorizing or displaying the information in an existing table. Okay? It will display information for us in an existing table. Now, what if I want to create a new table from this existing table based on a specific criteria? Okay, what if I want to create a new table from this existing table and based on a specific criteria? Now, for example, I want uh, let's go with the first task. Create a table of managers. Okay, so create a table for managers. So I want my designation is manager, and I want to create a new table from the existing table. Okay, so from this existing table, I want to create a new table, and this table should contain only the details of employees who are of the designation manager. Now, for us to do this, we will be using a functionality which is called as advanced filter. Okay, we will be using a functionality which is called as advanced filter. So it is always good for us to write down the criteria or type out the criteria that we want, because it will be useful for us as for the later steps. Okay, it will be useful for us for the later steps. Now, also you have to ensure that the names that you're mentioning here, the headers of your table is correct, and the value in the column is also the spelling is correct. Okay, so from what I want is I want Excel to look into this column called as designation, and I want Excel to filter out and create a new table of all the managers. So I've typed in designation, which is exactly what I've given here, and I have mentioned here the desired designation that I want is manager. Okay, now how do I go about using advanced filter functionality? How do I go about using advanced filter functionality? So for this, again, I have to come to menu, go to data, okay, then click on advanced. Okay, click on advanced. Click on advanced. And you have to click on this option that says copy to another location. Okay, so please ensure you have selected this option which says copy to another location. Now let's look at what are the inputs we have to give to ensure that this functionality works out. So we have to specify a list range. Okay, we have to specify a list range. So for you to specify your list range, you have to come here, click here, and then select your entire data table like this. Okay, so click on this radio button here at the side, and then you have to select your entire data set. Second entry that we have to specify is we have to specify a criteria range. Now it is necessary for me to manually type in my criteria here, but since the space is small and it may be a little inconvenient, what I'm going to do is I've already typed out my criteria here onto my Excel workbook, Excel sheet. So I'm going to copy it from here. So come down, scroll down to criteria range, click on this radio button, and then select these two criteria. Okay, so what I want is designation manager to be filtered out. Okay, then where should Excel copy this to? Okay, where should the output be displayed? Where should Excel give me the output? So for this, I'm going to specify here. Okay, I'm going to have this table created here, and then I'm going to say OK. Okay. Now, if you notice, what Excel has done for me over here is Excel has, out of this table, Excel has created a new table for me based on the criteria that I specified. Okay, so it has filtered the data for me, and from that filtered data, it has created a new table here for me. Okay, so I'll repeat the entire thing once again. I'd spoken to you, I'd mentioned to you about filter. I told you filter, you can apply a filter and you can segregate data within a table. but there are certain times from that table we may have to create smaller tables based on our specified criteria. So in such cases, we will be using a functionality which is called as advanced filter. Okay, we will be using a functionality which is called as advanced filter. So how do we apply advanced filter? Okay, so that was what we were explaining right now. So for us to apply advanced filter, what we have to do is specify a criteria, type out a criteria. Okay, so for me, it is, I want Excel to filter out based on designation, and the designation that I want is manager. Okay, what the designation that I want is manager. While applying advanced filter, you have to ensure that the header for your table, okay, and the criteria that you're typing out, these two should match. Okay, these two should match. If you make a spelling mistake here, then advanced filter functionality will not work properly. Also, the item based on which you would like Excel to create the new table, that spelling should also be correct. So if I make a mistake here with manager spelling, then this functionality will not work. Okay? This functionality will not work properly. Now, how do I access advanced filter? Come to my menu, go to data, click on advanced. Okay, now I have to click on the second option, copy to another location. Okay, so click on second option. Now since I had already given you a demo, I have the values already mentioned here, so I'm just going to quickly delete all those entries and then show. Now we have to fill in these three entries. Okay, these three entries we will have to fill in for advanced filter functionality to work. So first we have to specify the list range. So I'm just going to click on this particular radio button, select my entire data range. Okay, select my entire data range. Then I have to specify my criteria. So my criteria, I'm actually expected to type this out over here, but since the space here is very small and it's going to be a little difficult, I'm going to depend on the values that I've already entered here. So what I'm going to do is click on this, select, this is my criteria. I want designation, and it should be filtered out based on manager. Then I have to specify where do I want it to be pasted to. So if you want this to be pasted in a new sheet, you can do that. If you want this to be pasted into a new workbook, that is also perfectly fine. But where do you want the resulting table to be applied for you? So that is where you have. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify within this sheet itself, and I'm going to say okay. Okay. So now what Excel has done is Excel has filtered out the data based on my requirement. Okay, Excel has filtered out based on my requirement. So let me give you another demo. Now I want based on, let's say, location. Okay, based on location. Now location, that what I want is Patna. Okay, let's say I want all the employees who are working in Patna. Now how would I do this? Again, I will have to go to data, advanced filter, and again I'll have to delete because it has the values from my previous advanced filter. So now I have to specify my list range. Okay, so I'm going to specify my list range like this. Okay, now my criteria is location Patna, and I want this table to be displayed over here. Okay, and I'm going to say okay. So Excel has filtered out, and these are the details, or this is the table that contains the details of the employees who are working in a location Patna. Okay. So these are the details of the employees who are working in Patna. Now Excel, we also have, using this advanced filter, we can specify more than one criteria at a time. Okay. We can specify more than one criteria at a time, and I'll also give you a quick demonstration of that. So let me just quickly delete this off, because since I've maximized my screen for the benefit of all of you to see, I'm having a little hard time because I have really very limited space here. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly delete off this. Now what I want is, my requirement now is I want department, and the department that I'm looking for is HR, and I also have one more criteria, which is location. Okay, and the location should be Bangalore. Okay, so now I have two criteria. So let's again repeat the process. Let's go to menu, data, advanced, and let me select copy to another location, specify the data range. Okay, Now my criteria, my criteria is mentioned over here. Now since I have two criteria, I have to select both the criteria. And where do I want the table to be copied to? Let me copy the table here, and I'm going to say OK. And it has come back with the details of the employee who's working for the department HR, and who's also working at the location Bangalore. Okay, so this is this advanced filter feature you will use when you want to filter and create an exclusively new table out of an existing table. Okay, it's a wonderful tool which can save us actually a lot of time, especially when we are working out a lot of clerical activities. Now here I have mentioned a practice session for you, a practice exercise for you. Probably I'll pause here for a minute, and then probably you guys, all of you, can give it a try, and then we will proceed, or then we will move on to the next exercise. There were a few requests in the chat. Some of you have actually asked me to repeat it. And there was also a query, why should we use this feature and when we can copy the data? Yes, that is one way of doing it. Now, in this case, we can actually apply the filter. Okay, we can apply the regular filter like this. Okay, we can apply the simple filter like this, and then we could apply different criterias and filter out the data like this and just copy paste. Okay. Now in this case, what has happened is the table is very simple. Okay, the table is very simple. Parameters are also very simple. Okay, but it may not be all that easy when you have huge amounts of data. Okay. When you have huge amounts of data, working it out in this manner may not be very easy. So in such cases, that is when you would be using advanced filter option. There was also one more request, if I could get a table with numbers like SPSS. At this point of time, I don't have any complex data with me, but maybe definitely at some point of time, if you still would like to try this out with some complex data, you can share this out. Share the data with me, and I'll be happy to apply the advanced filter for you and then share it back. Okay, so with that note, I hope all of you have understood the option of advanced filter. And with that, let us move on to the next topic. The next topic that we would be learning this afternoon is what is called as conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting, as the name suggests, you would define certain criterias to Excel, and Excel will highlight certain cells based on the criterias that you're specifying. Okay, you can specify certain criterias, and based on those criterias, Excel will help you identify, or it will help you highlight certain cells. So let's quickly get on to a demonstration based on this for us to understand this functionality in a better way. I want all of you to quickly scroll over to the second sheet, which says conditional formatting. Okay, I want all of you to quickly scroll over to the next sheet that says conditional formatting. And here I have the names of some students, and the students' subject marks, 2 subject marks have been given here on the screen. Okay, their accounts marks and their marketing mark. Now, here, since the data is very small, it is very easy for me to maybe scan through the data and identify any trend or any anomalies. But if the data is really huge or really big, in such cases, it may be very difficult for me to manually scan through. So in such cases, we can use a functionality which is called as conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting would help us identify certain cells based on criteria we are specifying. So let's try an exercise together. Let us select the data. Okay. And conditional formatting is available on the home menu option. Okay. It is available on the home menu option. So click on conditional formatting. And here, by default, there are some default. Now the version that I'm using is 2016. 2019, and in this version I already have some ready-made conditional formattings which are defined, but I can either go with this. These are predefined conditions which are already given, or else I can specify a condition of my own. So for this, what I can do is I can click on new rule. This option should be available in all your Excels irrespective of your version. This option would be available in all your Excels irrespective of your version. Now this is a place where I will have to specify my criterias. Okay, so now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify format only cells that contain. Okay, now here I have to, now this is usually one functionality that we would be commonly using, and here I have to give a description of what exactly or what is the criteria that I'm looking for. Now let's say here I want Excel to highlight all the students who have failed. Okay, so let's assume pass mark is 40 and I want Excel to highlight all the students who have failed in the exam. So I'm going to say format only cells that contain cell value. Okay, and here there are different conditions: between, not between, equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than, or equal to, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm going to use less than. Okay, and I'm going to say 40. Okay, I'm going to say less than, and then I'm going to say 40. Then here, this option, I have to specify how Excel should highlight those cells for me. Okay, here I'm going to specify how Excel should highlight those cells for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say format. Okay, I'm going to click on format, and now I have to define how exactly should that cells be highlighted for me. Okay, I have to specify how exactly should those cells be specified for me. So what I'm going to say now is the font should be white in color and it should give a fill in the cell with red in color. Okay, so you can get a preview over here. So this is how it will get highlighted. Okay, then I'm going to say okay. Now notice what Excel has done. Excel has automatically identified all the values which have which have less than 40, and it has highlighted those cells for me. Okay? So Excel has identified all the cells where the value is less than 40, and it has highlighted those cells for me. So I'm going to repeat this once again. Conditional formatting is a functionality that you would use when you want to highlight a cell based on certain specific parameters. Okay, based on certain specific parameters. So now how would we use this? For this we have to select the entire data set, go to conditional formatting. Conditional formatting option, it is available on home, and then there's this option that says conditional formatting. You have to go to home and there's this option that says conditional formatting. So you have to click on that. And then in higher versions of Excel, you have default, you have a wizard which has got some predefined conditions for conditional formatting. But in this case, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to click on that option that says new rule. Okay, I'm going to click on that option that says new rule. Okay, here there are different ways in which we can use conditional formatting, but I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to stick to one. We may not have time to explain or go through all of them. I have to click on format only cell that contains, and I have to mention the parameter. Okay, so now here I want to highlight all the students who have failed, so who have scored less than 40. So cell value, okay, and then I'm going to say less than, and since in this case 40 is my pass mark, so I'm going to mention that. Now after this, I have to specify how should Excel highlight these cells for me. Okay, so there are different ways in which you can, these are different options that you can use. So the two most common options that we would usually use is font, and then we will use fill. These are, so let me give some conditions here. I'm going to give this as italics, and I'm going to tell Excel to give that in red in color, and I'm going to say okay. And once those cells get highlighted, this you'll get a preview of that over here. And I'm going to say okay. So now Excel has highlighted those for me. Now, what if you want to change the condition? Okay, what if you want to change the condition? So in such cases, you have to come back to conditional formatting, go to manage rules. Okay, you have to go to manage rules, and then you will see all the rules mentioned over here. Now we can, for a particular, we can specify n number of rules for conditional formatting. Okay, we can specify n number of rules for conditional formatting. So I'm going to change the rule. Let's say I'll say edit, and I'm going to change my condition. I'm going to say less than 25. Okay, I'm going to say less than 25, and I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to say apply, and then okay. Okay, so Excel has immediately incorporated those changes, and it has, based on the changes that are specified, Excel can highlight accordingly. Now, what if I want to identify all the students who have scored above 75 in the same table? Yes, all that I have to do is just add one more rule. So what I'm going to do is new rule, format, okay, and format only cells that contain cell value. Now there are different conditions over here. Says greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So depending on how we want Excel to highlight, we can select one of these options, greater than or greater than equal to. So for me, what I'm looking at now is 75 or above 75. Okay, 75 or above 75, and I will say format, and this time let's say I want it to be highlighted green in color. Okay, I want it to be highlighted green in color, and I'm going to say okay. So okay, so here it has highlighted the values. Okay, so just manage that. Okay, new rule. Okay, so greater than 75, and I want that to be green in color, and I say okay. Okay, so now Excel has highlighted the cells which have marks more than 75 here for me. Now so I'll just quickly repeat this once again. You have to select the data, go to conditional formatting, select new rule, and then here there are different conditions. Okay? There are various conditions that you can specify. You can select one of the appropriate options based on how exactly we want the data to be filtered out, and then you can specify that. You can also specify a condition, and then you can mention that accordingly. Okay. So probably I'll give you a minute or two. You can practice through this data set, and then we will move on to the next tool. Okay, so in the meanwhile, there was a query as to why when I applied for green, even though names were also highlighted in green in color, actually there was one small correction. When we were applying conditional formatting, I should have selected only the marks. Now, in our first day session, I had mentioned when we had learned formatting, I had mentioned that there are corresponding in Excel, depending on the cell formatting. Okay, so depending on the cell formatting, there are corresponding values to each of these. Okay, so there are corresponding values to each of these. So since I specify the criteria as above 75, if you convert this the letter characters into numerical value, it is definitely more than 75. So that's why it was highlighted green in color. Okay, so what I should have ideally done is I should have selected only the marks cells, that is these, only this, and I should have applied the conditional formatting. That was the reason why it was even though I had selected the entire table. That is why it was this thing. Now, in the meanwhile, there was another question. So, if that be the case, why was it not highlighted in red? Because the corresponding values for these alphabets is less than 40. That's why it was not highlighted red in color. So ideally what you should have done is you should have selected only the marks, the cells which had only the marks entry, and then applied the conditional formatting. Now let's go on to the next topic that we have. Uh, uh, this afternoon I'm a little hurry because we have a valedictory also at 4:20. So before that I have to finish off the question and answer session as well as the topics that I have planned for this today's session. Next, what we are going to learn is a functionality which is called as goal seek. Okay, the next functionality that we are going to learn this afternoon is a functionality which is called as goal seek. Now, goal seek is a wonderful option that you can use, especially when we have a lot of complex formulas in place. And to get a desired value, how should the values in the corresponding cells be changed? Okay. So to get a desired value, how should the corresponding values in the cells be changed? So let me give you a demonstration for this. Let's go back to the Excel sheet. Okay, let's go back to the Excel sheet, and I want all of you to scroll over to the second sheet which says goal seek. Okay, I want all of you to scroll over to the next sheet which says goal seek. Okay, uh, I want all of you to uh, scroll over to the next sheet that says goal seek. Here, and in the meanwhile, there was a request. We request all the participants to ensure that your headsets or your mics are muted, because it may, if just in case if you have not muted it, it may cause a lot of unwanted disturbance or distractions for the others on the call. So please, we request all of you to ensure that you have muted yourself. Okay. It'll also be a good practice if all of you would ensure that your videos are also muted, because it may enhance your connectivity speed. At this point of time, we may not need the participants' video streams. It will be good if all of you would also mute your video streams also. It will help in improving the your connectivity, as well as will also ensure there will be better reception. Now, next functionality that we are going to learn is called as goal seek. Okay, so here I have so I have actually I think in the sheet that I've shared with you, I've already put in a formula for you. So let's say if I given some values over here, if you notice that it gives me a corresponding sum, that's because I have put in a formula here, and I've given a formula here to sum up all these four cells. Okay, so I have already given a formula, and according to this formula, the result is that it will total up the answers in these four cells. So now I'm yet to enter the value for subject D. Okay, I'm yet to enter the value for subject D. But let's say if I want the total to be 140. Okay, the total here for me should be 140. If I have to get 140 here, how much should I enter over here? Okay, so if I have to get 140 here, how much should I enter over here? Now in this case, it is simple arithmetic. So I know for sure if I enter 60, I will get 140. Okay, but what if it's a complex operation? Okay, what if it's a very complex operation? In such cases, how can I figure out what's the value? This is the place where the functionality called as goal seek will come to our help. Okay, this is the place where the functionality of goal seek will come to our help, and now we are going to learn how exactly are we going to use goal seek. Okay, now we are going to learn how exactly we are going to use goal seek. So to use goal seek, you have to go to uh, data. Okay, you have to go to data tab, and here there is a section that says what if analysis. Okay, there's a section that says what if analysis. From this drop down, there are three options in that. For now, what we are going to be learning is called as goal seek. So click on goal seek, and you will get a wizard like this. Okay, you will get a wizard like this. Now, unfortunately, this I have no option of maximizing, because this is the inbuilt menu option in Excel. So I may not be able to maximize this for you. Uh, just try and put this here so this is visible. Okay. Now here there are a couple of parameters that I have to fill in. Okay. Set value. Okay. Where am I? Where exactly do I want the total? Okay. Where exactly do I want the total? And this value should become what? Okay. This value has to become what? So for me, it has to be 140. Okay. So for me, it has to be 140. Then where should the corresponding value be changed? Where should the corresponding value be changed? So corresponding value has to be changed for subject D, which is in B7. So I have to highlight that for Excel, B7, and then say OK. And now Excel has done the computation. So now Excel is telling me if this has to be 140, then the value has to be 60. Okay, so Excel is telling me Excel has run the formula in a reverse manner for me. It has calculated and then it has brought it back for me. Now we will maybe same thing. We will talk in another context. Let's say what if analysis. So how do we use what if analysis? You have to click on data tab, what if analysis. There are three options here. We have to use goal seek, and here where should the total, or where do we want to set the value? Okay, so the set cell is here, and let's say in this case I want this to be 200. Okay, I want this to be 200, and where should the corresponding value be changed? Corresponding value has to be changed in subject D. Okay, and say okay. And so if I want the total to be 200, then the marks for my subject D should be 120. Okay? The marks for my subject should be 120. Okay. Now let me try explaining goal seek for you with another scenario. Okay. Now we all know the formula for calculating simple interest. Simple interest is principal into interest into time. Okay. So that's the formula for simple interest. So let's say my principal amount is 10,000 rupees. Rate of interest is 8. And let's say I'm depositing money for 1 year. So let me see what is my interest. So the formula to calculate simple interest, I'm going to write that here. My principal is mentioned here. So open bracket. My principal is mentioned here. Principal into rate. Rate is mentioned in F5 into time. Time is mentioned in F6. Close bracket divided by 100. Okay, so close bracket divide. This is in a nutshell, this is the formula that we would usually teach our students while teaching them simple interest calculation. Okay, simple interest calculation. So if I were to deposit 10,000 rupees at 8% interest, then I will be getting 800 rupees. But let's say I want 5,000 rupees as my I want 5,000 rupees as my interest. Okay, I want 5,000 rupees as my interest. What should be the corresponding principal amount that I should be investing? Okay, what should the corresponding principal amount that I should be investing? So let's try and calculate this using what if analysis. So come to data, what if analysis, goal seek. So here I want the value to be changed, and I want the value to be changed to 5,000 or yeah, 5,000, and I want to change the principal. So principal, I'm trying to calculate how much of principal should I deposit to get an interest of 5,000. So let's try and run this and see. So at 8% interest, I should deposit 62,500. Only then I'll get an interest per year of 5,000 rupees. So this is how you would be using in a simple way, in a simple scenario. This is how we can be using the example of goal seek. Okay. Now, goal seek is an extremely useful tool, especially when we have complex formulas to calculate. Okay. It's a very it's a beautiful tool that we can use when we have complex um, um, uh, calculations to okay. So I'll probably give you a minute or two while you can explore and try and see. Let's quickly try and apply this scenario and see how much of money should you invest to get 6,500 um, as your interest. Okay, so please try using goal seek and see how much of money should you invest to get an interest of interest of 6,500. So I think that should be a good amount of time, and um, I think most of you have got the answer. The answer should be 81,250. Okay, the answer should be 81,250. So let's try and work that out together. So what if analysis, goal seek, and here I want this cell to be changed, and the answer that okay. So this is where I want. Excuse me. So this is where I want, uh, and what I'm looking for is 6,500, and I'm looking forward in changing the principal, and principal should be 81,250, which is exactly what all of us got. Okay, so with so I hope with that all of you have got an understanding about what is meant by goal seek. Okay? Now let's move on to the next topic. The next topic that we have is data validation. Now, data validation by itself is a very huge topic. I'm trying to compress this huge topic in a nutshell and present it for you. Even if I were to take 4 days of my FDP session, I may not be able to get over with data validation. And data validation is a very it's a very good option that we can utilize, especially when we are creating complex reports, or when we are trying to create certain templates which may need some participants to interact. Okay, which may need some participants to interact. So for example, if you happen to file your income tax returns by logging on to income tax website, one of the utility that they provide you is an Excel utility. So that entire utility has been built on Excel. So those experts, what they have done is they've used complex functionalities. They've brought in all those complex functionalities into Excel, and that's how those forms have been designed. So now I'll just quickly give you a demonstration of data validation. But like I said, once again, I'm trying to bring the data validation concept to you in a nutshell. I may not be able to cover all the aspects of data validation. I shall only be covering important ones for you this afternoon. Okay, now there are certain scenarios where we want certain desired inputs or certain desired values to be entered in certain cells. Okay, so in such cases, how do we restrict the user from only entering those values? So for example, here's a scenario. In this scenario, I want the person to enter only a number between 0 to 9. Okay, I want the person only to enter a number between 0 to 9. So how do I do this? Okay, now if I in a regular or in a normal circumstance, what will happen is the user has the flexibility or the freedom to enter n number of values. Okay, there is no restriction. There is no restriction that has been brought about here. But in this case, how do I restrict? So this is the place where the concept of data validation will come into my help. Okay, this is the place where the concept of data validation will come into help. Now, how do I access data validation? So for me to activate data validation, I have to select a cell, or I have to select the range of cells where I want the data validation to be applied. Okay? Either I have to select a cell, or I have to select a range of cells into which the data validation has to be applied. Select that, then go to data. There's an option that says over here, that says data validation. Okay, so it should look like this. um, but definitely it will be, now the UI may be slightly different depending on the version of Excel that you're using, but it will be available to you under the data tab. Okay, it will be available to you under the data tab. So come to data tab, go to data validation, and then click on this option that says data validation again, and you should get a drop down, like you should get a menu like this. Okay? You will get a menu which looks like this. So as of now, the data validation which is set for this cell, it has been designed to accept any value. Okay? It has been designed to accept the any value. Now if you select the drop down, you would see here that there are different criterias. There are different validation criterias which are specified. I may not be able to cover all of them. Like I said, this afternoon I'm trying to bring the concept of data validation in a nutshell to you. If I were to take data validation as a topic itself, these 4 days of FDP itself may not be enough, because it is that huge. Okay? So I'm going to click on, now what I want is, I want Excel to capture only numbers between 0 to 9. Okay, 0 to 9. So I'm going to select whole number, and here again I have different criterias that I can specify. Just like how we worked out for conditional formatting, here I have an option of specifying different criteria. So for me, in this case, I want the numbers to be between 0 and 9. So I'm going to select that option. Okay, I'm going to select that option between 0 and 9. Now I have to specify my minimum value. So for me, in this scenario, my minimum value is 0. Okay, my minimum value is 0. Then my maximum value is 9. Okay, now my maximum value is 9. Okay, so my minimum value is 0 and my maximum value is 9. So I'll repeat once again. For you to select data validation, for you to enter or for you to activate data validation, you have to select the cell or the group of cells where you want the validation to be applied. So if I were to select like this and then go to data validation, then what happens is this validation is applicable for all these cells. Okay, this validation will become applicable for all these cells. So click on this cell, then go to data validation. Okay, now in this case I'm looking for a numerical value, so I am going to set that to whole number. Okay, and then again like I said, there are different criteria we can specify, but I'm going to select that as between. Then I'm going to specify a minimum value. So for me, in this case, my minimum value is 0 and my maximum value is 9. Minimum value is 0, maximum value is 9. Before we click on OK, there's one more functionality that you may or you may not use. Okay, you can, you need not use in all the cases, but in this case, just to explain the feature to you, I shall be using this feature right now. Okay, now I have an option of creating an input message. That is, the moment I hover my mouse over it, it will give me a highlight. Okay, it will give me a highlight. Okay. So I'm going to say here, please enter number between 0 to 9. Okay. Now also there's one more tab that says error alert. Okay. Error alert. Okay. Error alert. Now here there are different types of errors. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this. Again, there is stop warning information. It depends on scenario to scenario, but for now, in order to save on time, I'm going to click on stop, and I'm going to just give a warning message. Let's say danger, and I'm going to mention please read instructions. Okay, I'm going to say please read instructions, and I'm going to say okay. Now, if you notice, the moment I scroll or I click over here, immediately the alert message that I had put in at the time of data validation is showing up. So it is telling me, please enter a number between 0 to 9. Okay. But if I were to click on some other cell, that highlight goes off. Okay, that highlight goes off. Now, let me try and give you, let me try and enter some values. Let's say I'll try and enter 1. Okay, it's perfectly fine. It is within the range. Let me change that to 8. Still fine. It is within the range. But let me change this to 10 and see what happens. Okay, now it is telling me danger, and it is telling me please read instructions. So this is exactly the error message that I had told Excel to highlight the moment someone enters a wrong value here. Okay, so this is exactly what I had told Excel to highlight the moment I enter an incorrect value. So accordingly, Excel has given me danger, and it has also given me a message saying that please read instructions. So I have to now change according to the instructions. Okay, so I hope all of you understood the concept of data validation. As a quick practice, I shall pause here for a minute. I want all of you to try this exercise. Enter a number between 50 and 100. Okay, enter a number between 50 and 100. Okay, so I hope all of you have got a hang of how to do it. You just have to repeat the steps that I had previously mentioned. Now, I'll just quickly move on with the other data validations. I'll just quickly move on with the other data validations. I hope by now all of you were able to do this. Now, let's move on to the next exercise. Here, did you like the FDP? Okay. Now, did you like the FDP? Now, for me, if I were to give this question to my participants, I just want them to select yes or a no. So I just want them to select a yes or a no. So just like how we see on certain websites where we get an option to interact, click on drop downs and interact. It's the same way we have an option of inputting that into Excel also. Now this we can do with the help of data validation. Okay, now this we can do with the help of data validation. Now how do we do that? We click on data validation. Uh, now this time I have to go to settings. Now here what I have to do is I have to select that option that says list. Okay, so I'll repeat that once again. Click on the cell where you want the data validation to be applied. Go to data tab, data validation, again data validation. Uh, any value, change that to list. Okay, so from any value, change that to list. Okay, now here I can type in the drop downs which has to be displayed. So for me it is yes and then no. So I have to separate the options with a comma. Okay, I have to separate the options with a comma and then say okay. And if you would notice, what happened was there is a drop down which has come up over here, and the moment I click on it, I get an option: yes or no. Okay? Yes or no. Okay, so I'll repeat that once again. We have an option of letting the people who are interacting with a sheet to select a certain value from the list of values. So for that we can do that using data validation. Now that data validation we would set by clicking on data validation again, any value, list, source, and then here I am going to type yes, comma no, and then say okay, and then come here. I have the options available. So did you like my FTP? Did you like the FTP? So based on your response, you can either select yes or no. Okay? Yes or no. Okay. Now there are certain scenarios where you may want to give more than two options, or you may want to give more than two options, and it may be too difficult for you to type. Okay? It may be too difficult for you to type. So in such cases, what you can do is, in another cell, you can type in the responses like this. So I want to give my users maybe 5 to 6 options. Let's say very good, good, not sure, poor, very poor, needs improvement. Okay, so now I have all these options. Now the moment someone were to click on this option here, and if I were to give them this drop down, I want this to be available to them as a drop down in the list. Instead of typing it all over there, what I can do is click on the cell, go to data validation again, any value, go to list. Now this time click on source, and you see this radio button here right next to it. You see this radio button, click on this, select this entire list. Okay, select this entire list like this. So now it has specified the range E6 to E11. Okay, E6 to E11, and then say okay. Now notice what has happened over here is whatever options I have given here, it is simultaneously visible here. Okay, it's simultaneously visible here. So how would you rate the FTP resources? You can select an appropriate response. Now just in case if I make a change here, let's say I say not sure and I change that to NA, not applicable. Okay, I change that to NA, not applicable. Notice what happens immediately in my drop down also, the corresponding change has taken place. Okay? Immediately in my the corresponding change has taken place. Okay, so this is a wonderful option that we can use. Now I'm quickly going to rush through because like I said, we have a valedictory session at 4:20, so I have got a couple of topics to finish as well. So probably I will continue with the sessions, and then once I'm done, I may spare a few minutes to take a few questions from the participants. Okay. Now, next important data validation option that we should be using is to enter. So here I have a need. I want people to enter their comments here, but it should not be more than 10. It should not be more than 10 letters. Okay, it should not be more than 10 letters. So again, I go to data validation. Okay, this time I'm going to specify it as text length. Okay, so I have to, from the drop down, I have to select text length, and I'm mentioning the text length should be less than, or let's say less than or equal to 10. Less than or equal to 10, and then I say okay. Okay, now let's say I type in something. Okay, that's less than 10, not a problem. Now let's say if I type in something really long, and then it will not allow me to enter a text more than 10 letters because I have set the validation in that manner. Okay, I have set that validation in that manner. So in a nutshell, we had learned data validation with respect to numbers. We had learned data validation with respect to list. We also learned data with respect to number of characters. Like I said, data validation is a huge concept, so may not be able to cover all of them. Even if we all sit for the next 4 days, we may not be able to cover all the data validation options. Okay, now I'm going to quickly move on to the next topic. The next topic that we have as a part of this afternoon session is an option called as sort. Okay, the option which is called as sort. Now, sort is a function that we will use for sorting data. Okay, it is what we will use for sorting data. So let me give you a demonstration of this. I want all of you to scroll back to the Excel sheet. Okay, I want all of you to scroll back to the Excel sheet. Click on the sheet that says data, and we have the ABC College BBA results, and there are some students' names which have been mentioned, and we have also mentioned the subjects that they've studied. Okay. Now, let's say I want to sort the students' names based on their marks in HR. Okay, I want to sort the list of these students based on their marks in HR. So how would I do that? So for that, I have to select my entire data table like this. Okay, I have to select my entire data table like this. Once I have selected my data table, I have to go to data tab. There's an option that says sort. Okay, there's an option which says sort. Click on sort. So you will get an interactive menu like this. Here we will specify the parameters, but one thing that you have to ensure here is, just in case if you're using a table which has headers, please ensure that this check mark is enabled. Okay, this check mark that you see over here, this is enabled. Now, if you don't enable this, what will happen is Excel will be under the assumption that the header, that is name, accounts, marketing, human resource, English, which is basically the header for my columns, is also a part of my data. Okay, it is also a part of my data. So Excel does not know this is accounts and this is the marks corresponding to it. It's a software. You have to teach Excel. So in order to teach Excel, we have to make sure that this option here is selected. Okay, this option here is selected. Now, my requirement was I wanted the marks to be sorted based on the marks in HR. Now, this is where I have to define my criteria. So sort by HR. Okay, so human resource. Now here I have an option, smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Okay, smallest to largest or largest to smallest. So I'm going to set this to largest to smallest, and then let me click on OK, and let me see what happens. So now what Excel has done is Excel has rearranged my entire data. Okay, so previously, if you notice, Adnan was on top and he had 12 marks. Melvin was right here at the bottom, and then he had 64 marks. But the moment I apply sort and I ask Excel to sort based on human resource, smallest to largest to smallest, and okay. And notice what is happening to my table. Excel has sorted my data. Notice it has also made all the corresponding changes in the rows based on the marks in HR. So Dhruti has got 96 marks in HR, and her name is now featuring on top. Okay, her name is now featuring on top. Now let's say I want to sort the data based on name. Okay, based on name. I want the name to be sorted based on alphabetical. I just say A to Z and I say okay. It has done that. Let's say I want to sort the data based on their marks in mathematics. Okay, mathematics largest to smallest. Say okay, and then it gets sorted accordingly. Now also there's one more thing that I like to mention over here. We have an option of mentioning multiple parameters. Okay, we have an option of specify multiple criteria. Okay, so if I want another criteria to be specified over here, now here I said mathematics smallest to largest, then let's say accounts smallest to largest goes on. But what you have to remember is the first priority of Excel is my first rule, sort by mathematics. So once Excel has sorted mathematics, again it will do a second round of sorting based on accounts. So depending on what level your criteria it has, Excel will be executing based on that. Okay, Excel will be executing based on that. Okay. I wish I could spare some time to give you a practice exercise, but like I said, since due to want of time, I'm going to quickly move on to the next tool. The next tool is a very important tool, which is called as pivot table. Okay, so I want all of you to scroll over to the next sheet. The next sheet, which is the name pivot table. Okay, so please scroll over to the next sheet, which says pivot table. Okay, now pivot table. Here we have this is actually a very big data. So I have around 476 entries. Okay, so basically these are product names. This is the list of certain purchases which are done. The name of the product, what quantity, what price, what was the total price, who was the sales representative who's bought it, and then who has what location was it bought at. Now if I want to, using this data, I want to generate some reports. Okay, I want to generate some reports. Let's say I want to generate, so like the example that I gave here, I want to generate a report of sales according to location. Okay, so I want to generate a report of sales according to location. So one option is I can use uh, uh, Autofilter option, and then find out Bangalore at first, then go to the next location, and then goes on. But that's a very tedious task. So instead of this, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be applying an option which is called as pivot table. So to apply pivot table, what you should be doing is you should select the entire data set. Okay, you have to select the entire data set like this. Okay, select the entire data set, go to insert. Okay, go to insert. Then there's an option that says pivot table over here. Okay, there's an option that says pivot table over here. So click on pivot table, and then you will automatically have a wizard which comes like this. Okay, you will have a wizard which comes like this. What you have to ensure over here is selection. The first option, select a table or a range. So here you have to make sure that your complete table is selected. Next important thing that you have to notice is where exactly do you want the pivot table to be generated? Do you want it to be a new worksheet, or do you want it in an existing worksheet? So for this case, I'm going to go with new worksheet. I'm going to click on OK, and you will get a wizard like this. Now here, this is the place where we will tell Excel how exactly to generate the report. Okay, so what I wanted was location based. What I wanted was a location based. Sorry. Okay, so I hope now the screen is visible to all of you. I hope the screen is now visible. Vijit, so if you can quickly confirm. Okay, so I've got a confirmation the screen is now visible. Now here what I'm looking for is location based sales report. Okay, so what I'm going to do is location. Now you would see that pivot table fields over here at the uh, sorry. Okay, so at the right corner of your screen like this. So I'm going to drag in location and I'm going to put that in rows. Okay, I'm going to put that in rows. So notice immediately here the corresponding change has taken place. So here the corresponding change has given me the location of the names of all the locations that we have. Now the total, I'm going to drag that and I'm going to drop that into values. Okay, I'm going to drag that and I'm going to drop that into values. So now what Excel has done is Excel has given me location wise sales information. It's given me a sales report. Okay, so in Bangalore, there was a sale of 41,952. In Chennai, there was a sale of 1,15,700. So like this, you could use the various options within Excel, within pivot table to generate multiple types of reports. Let's say now I want location based sales representative wise report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in the sales representatives names and I'm going to drop that into columns. So now it is giving me location wise sales representatives sales details. Okay, so this is how we could be using, or we would be using, pivot table option. Okay, this is how we would be using pivot table option. Okay, so we can use a permutation and combination of different arrangement of the data values, and accordingly we can generate reports or that we desire. Okay, we can generate different reports that we desire. Okay, now I have one last topic to cover for you. Actually, I meant to cover quite a few topics, but I think due to want of time, I may not be able to cover all of them. So I'll just quickly share, since we all are academicians, I'll quickly share how we can apply statistical analysis in Excel. Okay, so I think in the first class I'd mentioned that Excel is really a wonderful tool where we can ensure we can use it for even our statistical analysis as a part of our publications while we prepare our research papers, etc. So I may not be able to cover I may not be able to cover the tools, but I'll just show you how to enable statistical computation in Excel. Okay, I'll just quickly share with you how to enable statistical computation in Excel. So you will have to click on File. Okay, you will have, now here what I actually have is I have the share prices of Nifty for about, I think it's 29. Okay, so it's around 1.5 months data. Okay, so I'll just quickly show how we can use Excel for statistical analysis. You have to first enable statistical analysis package in your Excel. Okay, you have to first enable statistical analysis package in your Excel. So for this, you have to click on File, go to Options. Okay, File, go to Options, and here you will get a window like this. You have to come to Add-ins. Okay, you have to come to an option that says Add-ins. Okay, you have to come to an option that says Add-ins, and then here, this first option, Analysis Tool Pack. Okay, this analysis tool pack. So here what you have to do is you have to at the bottom of the screen there's an option that says Excel add-in, and then you have to click on Go. Okay, so I'll repeat that once again. File, Options, Add-ins. Okay, Manage Excel add-in. Okay, at the bottom of the screen. Okay, and then say Go. Okay, now just in case if it was not available to you when you clicked on File, please do not panic. It's just that you are using an earlier version of Excel. That's the reason why I have sent, as a part of my handout, I have in detail, I've mentioned those steps with a screenshot. So once you receive the handout, you will be able to refer for yourself. Okay. Now here, you have to ensure that Analysis Tool Pack, this option there's a check mark over here. Okay. You have to ensure there's a check mark over here and then say OK. Okay. Then to confirm if data analysis tool pack is enabled, please click on data tab, and then you should see this option here, data analysis. Okay. You should see this option, data analysis. So I'll just quickly show how we can use this. Select your entire data like this. Okay. Select your entire data like this. Click on data, go to data analysis. Okay. Now here, these are the various statistical tools which are available. So you can do ANOVA, F-test, histogram, moving average, regression, t-test, different t-tests, z-tests, etc. Okay. So I'll just quickly give you a demonstration with descriptive statistics. So I'm going to select descriptive statistics. I'm going to say OK. And then I have to mention my input range. So since I want to run descriptive statistics for Nifty, I'm going to select my share. I'm going to select the data set, which is B2 to B30. Okay, and then I'm going to say OK. Okay, so and then I'm going to select summary statistics. Okay, then I'm going to say OK. Now it has given me the descriptive statistics of the data set that I have calculated. So mean, standard error, median, mode, standard deviation, etc. Also, why would I prefer Excel is because in Excel it is a lot easier for me to format the data. Okay, so whatever results that I'm getting as a part of this, it is a lot easier for me to format, unlike your other statistical analysis tools like SPSS or eViews, where we'll have to copy it, then bring it to Word, then we will have to apply format. It's too tedious. So if you are in a position to activate data analysis, statistical data analysis package for Excel, you should be able to do it. And also almost all most of the common tools that we would use as a part of our statistical analysis is readily available. But however, some advanced forms, okay, some advanced forms of statistical tools may not be available in Excel. So in such cases, for those, add-ins will be available, but as a part of the basic package, only these are the ones which are available. Okay. Now I will not be able to cover these tools because it is not a part of our FDP session offering today, but definitely in future we will be looking forward in offering statistical analysis using Excel as a program to the faculties across the country. Okay. So with that note, let me quickly wind up with my session over here, and maybe I might spare a minute or two to take. I might spare a minute or two, okay, to take some questions from the participants, and then we will have the valedictory at 4:20. Okay. So just in case if you have any questions, you can put your questions across to Bijan sir, and in the meanwhile, we also have a request. We request any two volunteers, any two participants to volunteer uh, to uh, to to share your feedback on the call. So if you can quickly raise your hand, we will be able to identify you and then make a note of your name so that we will be able to we will be able to unmute you to share your feedback. Any two volunteers from the participants who will be willing to share a feedback about the FDP session during the valedictory. If there's anyone who's willing to volunteer, you can quickly raise your hand. Any two people, uh, we will be happy to make a record of your names and then. Okay, Bijan sir, I think you can make a note of this name.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I noted down, sir. Yes, yes. Stu is there, sir. Fine, fine, fine.
Okay, okay. Okay, I think there are some more questions which are coming. Maybe all the questions I may not be able to take right now, but I think all of you have my email addresses. You please feel free to write to me. I think the queries that were sent yesterday, I'm yet to write back, but until the first 2 days, I think most of the queries have already responded. And some of you have actually shared very positive feedbacks. So thank you very much. It was really motivating. It was really encouraging. Thank you all. But if you still have queries, I'll be more than happy to share whatever I know with you. I will be more than happy to exchange knowledge with you over the email. Okay. So we're just going to quickly pause here for a minute, and then we're just going to quickly check. And make in a minute or two, we're going to make the arrangements for valedictory, and then we will have the valedictory session. Okay, very good afternoon to all the participants once again. We are starting off with the Valkyrie session for the online FDP on data analysis using spreadsheet. This afternoon, we have the principal, Reverend Father Joskuti, the PD, principal of Kristu Jayanti College, with us on the online platform, and who will also be gracing us in the Valkyrie session. Uh, I now request Professor Surendranath Reddy, Head, Department of Management, Kristu Jayanti College, to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon, everyone present here. It's an immense pleasure to welcome all the participants, team of management, and the resource person and members from the department on the concluding session of 4 days FDP, that is Faculty Development Program on data analysis using the spreadsheet. I'm very happy to be here, part of this particular session, and it's really an initiative from the department with the help of the management and all the faculty members. We are able to do this particular faculty development program to exchange the knowledge and the expertise what we have with the faculty members from different parts of the country. On this occasion, I welcome Reverend Father Joskuti PD, our principal, who's the visionary and kind of a motivation for us every time whenever we take any initiative in the department. I welcome you, Father. I welcome the resource person, Professor Suku Thomas Samuel, and who's the main source of this particular FDP, and who has spent last 4 days of his time to share his knowledge and expertise with all the participants. I welcome you, sir. We also welcome the faculty members from the department, particularly Professor Bijin Philip, who is supporting the resource person for the last 4 days. I welcome Bijin, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I welcome all the participants who have shown the immense interest to be part of our FDP and participating actively in the last 4 days, and without whom the FDP would not be a reality. I welcome all the participants. Now I request any two participants to give your feedback based on your learning experience.
I invite CP Vijayalakshmi ma'am to give the feedback about the session.
Good evening, sir. This is Vijayalakshmi from DG Vaishnav College. Actually, this session is really a wonderful session. As an academician, we are in a situation to take over more of administration work where we need the help of Excel. So I feel this exercise really we understood many things which we are not aware before that. We understood from this session, and we feel that we are able to do our work in a very speed mode with the help of these things. So I thank you everyone behind this session, and I thank Kristu Jayanti College for convening such a wonderful faculty development program, and the sir Samuel sir who has taken the classes for us. Really, it took in a very well versed way, sir. How a teacher teaches a student, in that way he teach everything to us. So I thank everyone behind this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for your feedback. Now I invite Dr. Karuna, ma'am, for giving the feedback about the session.
Hello, I'm Dr. Karuna. I'm assistant professor from Mount Carmel College. Sir, I've been listening to this FTP from past 4 days. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You can proceed.
Yeah. So, sir, it's been very informative. And Thomas sir also, he was very patient and he repeated every function thrice and till our doubts were clear. And I think this Excel, it will be useful for us in future also. As the earlier speaker told, it will be useful for us to do all this admin work and all very easily and very fast also. So I would like to thank even the Kristu Jayanti College for organizing such a very informative session. And thank you for all the people who were behind this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, participants. Thank you, participants, for your valuable feedback. Now I request Reverend Father Joskuti PD, our principal, to address the gathering and a concluding session.
Dear, am I audible? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Father. Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Dear respected Professor Surendra Reddy, Head of the Department of Management, the resource person for the 4 days online faculty development program, Professor Suku Thomas sir, and the associate coordinator, Professor Bijim Belief, honorable participants and teachers from different institutions and colleges, and my dear friends. It is said that it is a valedictory function, but we are not going to have a valedictory here, but it is I feel this is only a beginning to go forward. As Suku Thomas sir was mentioning, I have something more to add, but you can listen with me. You can ask your queries through the email. So this is only a beginning, and this is a foundation with which all of us can build up our insights into data analysis through spreadsheet. As teachers and also as people who are training and empowering the students for their future career and life, we all believe that every organization will have n number of data. Data is not a problem, but how to make the data in a sort out manner, and also how to take decisions based on the data, or how to make the data helpful for the decisions. That is the need of any organization. And regarding the data, we should know what is the right data to get the answer for a question. Also, we should know how to draw the accurate conclusions from the data. Otherwise, if the conclusions are wrong, automatically the decisions may go wrong. And third, we should have the data which will really help us to make the decision in the right manner and also in the right time. And I am sure the initiation and the working together, or thinking together, or reflecting together with Professor Suku Thomas Samuel, all of you might have learned or reaffirmed that there are numerous ways in which spreadsheet is useful for any organization, for decision making, forecasting, or maintaining accounts, preparing budgets, keeping track of expenses, and planning for a meeting, and classifying the various subdivisions, and finally taking the valid conclusions or decisions. On this occasion, I appreciate all the participants. Even during this lockdown period, you all were proclaiming that we are continuous learners so that we can give the best to our student community. And your active involvement during the first 4 days from 19th till today really proclaims louder that together we can make a difference. Knowledge shared and knowledge being discussed definitely will bring forth new avenues for innovations and growth. On this occasion, while appreciating all the participants for your valuable time, and if you have data insights in your mind to go forward with the data analysis using spreadsheet in not only in your classes but also in the minds of the youth with whom you are handling and also in the organizations where you are working, and this will be useful, very useful for decision making. My dear friends, thank you very much. And together with all of you, I appreciate Professor Suku Thomas Samuel for his active involvement in a precise manner and in simple terms. He explains how data analysis using spreadsheet can be made and also useful, and it can be transferred to others in our various classes and also in our real life. And I appreciate Professor Surendra Reddy, the head of the Department of Management of Kristu Jayanti College. From the very inception of the department, he is there to guide, motivate not only the students but also the teachers, and also he always believed networking with other teachers across the country that will give value not only for the Department of Management, but it will be a value shared program for each one of us. Congratulations, Professor Surendra Reddy and Professor Suku Thomas sir, for your great efforts to bring everybody together during this lockdown period. I also appreciate Professor Bijin Bilib helping from the background and coordinating the activities in this FDP program together with all the members, faculty members in the Department of Management. My dear friends, thank you very much for your wonderful initiative to have this networking and also sharing of knowledge. I am sure in the coming days, all of you will be having a hectic time because of the loss of classes and also other training for the students during the past few weeks and more than 2 months. Wish you all the best and be safe and be healthy at home and go forward. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Thank you very much for your speech and motivational speech for everyone. Now I request Professor Bijin Philip to propose the vote of thanks.
Respected Father, Dean, Head of the Department, faculty members, and dear participants. We have done with online faculty development program on data analysis using spreadsheet organized by Department of Management, Kristu Jayanti College. It was a fruitful, enriched, and informative session. It's my immense pleasure to thank everyone who had worked for the successful completion of 4 days online faculty development program. First, I would like to thank our principal, Father Josukuti PD, for the entire support and guidance towards this 4 days online faculty development program. Thank you, Father. I would like to thank the management, vice principal, financial administrator to arrange all facilities for the successful completion of this program. I would like to thank the man behind organizing this program, Dr. Aloysius Edward, Dean, Commerce and Management, Kristu Jayanti College. In the absence of sir, I really thank you, sir. The person lead from the back organizing this program, Professor Surendranath Reddy, Head Department of Management, Kristu Jayanti College. Thank you so much, sir, for your entire support. Also, I would like to thank all faculties, administrative staff, and tech team worked hard towards this particular program. Thank you, everyone. This program never success without the support and contribution from the participants. I would like to thank all the participants from the various part of the country for your support and invest towards 4 days online faculty development program. Thank you, dear participants. Once again, thank you, everyone. I remain.
A special note of appreciation and thanking the resource person, Professor Suku Thomas Samuel, and how much effort he has put to prepare for this particular session. So thank you, Suku sir, and again appreciating your efforts in the department. Thank you, participants. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you, Father.
Before we conclude the meeting, we just have a very important announcement for all the participants. The handouts of today's session will be shared with you in email. We've also recorded the sessions that were conducted. It will be uploaded and the links will be shared with all the participants. So just in case later you would like to refer to what was being taught, the material would be readily available with you. Feedback forms have been shared with all the participants through email and the WhatsApp group. We request all of you to fill in the feedback forms with the details that have been requested and give us the appropriate feedback so that we could continue to improve on our offerings. Also, information regarding the other offerings from Kristu Jayanti College, we would be sharing with you through the WhatsApp group. We request you to disseminate the information among the teaching fraternity for the success of these programs. So thank you all once again. Wishing you all a wonderful evening. Thank you.